Welcome to the Imperial Newsstand. I'm Alan Imperial. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about why the Corona stimulus package was voted down twice and why I think it should continue to be voted down until we get it right. So, this is from the Washington Post. Congress, White House close in on $2 trillion stimulus deal to blunt coronavirus fallout. It basically boils down to really big numbers. And I know some people say we got to get this through right away. Americans need cash in their pockets now. And I agree with that. Americans do need cash in their pockets now. How many people, how many millions of people are told not to leave their homes? How many millions of people are told to shelter in place? The population of California alone is 30 million. The population of New York City is what, 10 million? So right there is 40 million people, not including the rest of the state of New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Illinois. Many millions of Americans are affected by this, and we have to get the deal done right. We just can't let the deal go through. So, at first it was $1 trillion, and now it ballooned to 2 trillion. Let's see what they want to spend it on. Now, they still want to focus in on Americans because they feel, in the bill at least, that Americans should receive $1,200 and should receive an additional $500 for each child. Everybody agrees Americans need the cash. I don't think that's enough cash, but that's for another video. I'm here to talk about why it was voted down and what and not well, I will talk about it. But you know what? Let's do some quick math right now. In New York City, minimum wage is $15. If I work for 40 hours in a week, that's 600 bucks. And multiply that by 2, they're giving me 2 weeks of of basically of money. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like UBI. It's that you don't account for the cost of living between different areas because $1,200 in New York City is not a lot of cash once you pay the rent and your bills. However, if you're in Wisconsin, I'm sure $1,200 could be stretched a little farther or further. It's further. So, I don't think this is enough. I think it should be a month's worth of New York City spending, but that's just me. But that's not what people in Washington are really having problems with. What they're having problems with is a $500 billion lending program for companies, states, cities, and extend to 367 billion to help small businesses. It would bolster unemployment insurance and pump $150 billion into US hospitals. So, the $367 billion for small businesses, awesome. $150 billion for hospitals, I'm all for that. This $500 billion is the big issue because let's just talk about one industry that they want to help. They talk about specifically, they want to put a $50 billion stimulus package for passenger airlines. Well, this article by MarketWatch, published a few days ago, talks about why we shouldn't be bailing out the airlines. And I am in complete agreement with them. Here's a chart to make it as simple as possible. This line right here is talking about their free cash flow over the past 10 years, measured in millions of dollars. So, this is for Alaskan Air Group specifically, this is almost $5 billion. that they had in free cash. If we move over in the chart, the next column over is talking about how much in the millions of dollars that they've spent for stocks. Again, we're going to use Alaskan Air, and they bought approximately 1.5, $1.6 billion worth of stock in that time. So, with free cash on hand, they've spent about 32% of their cash on buying back their stock. The other 68%, who knows? Maybe to improve the business, maybe to help investors out. There's no telling with this chart specifically. If we look at the bottom line, it shows the totals. 40, almost $50 billion in free cash over the past 10 years, and almost $48 billion was spent on stock buyback. And that's about 96%. But these are very abstract numbers. What does this mean? Well, let's look at Southwest specifically. Southwest 10 years ago had a stock price of about 11.28. 10 years afterwards, not including the crash, it was at $55 and a penny. So, if we do some quick math, 55 and a penny divided by 11.28 is almost 5 times the growth in their stock price. So if you were an executive and you had stock from 10 years ago, well, without you doing really much of anything, your stock magically gained 5 times the amount. And they spent about 71% of their free cash to buy back their stock. And this is Southwest specifically. Let's look at United Airlines. They had $11.5 billion of free cash, and they spent about $8.8 billion of that, or 77%, to buy back their stock. Let's look at what kind of investment they gained. So in January of this year, they were right around $90. 87.31. Yeah, 87.31. 10 years ago, you were looking at about 13.33. 87.81 divided by 13.33, and they gained 6.5 times their stock. And again, they spent 77% of their free cash. And my favorite number has got to be American Airlines. They lost $8 billion. They had a negative cash flow. They lost $8 billion. And they spent $13 billion. They spent money they didn't have on making their stock price look really good. In 2010, their stock was around $8, give or take. 10 years later, they were on a downturn. Oh my goodness. But they were at 28. So 8.28, that's like shave under 3 times the stock gain. All you executives at the airlines should be ashamed of yourself. This is from Vanguard. They're an investment company. What does Vanguard say? They're saying you should put aside between 3 to 6 months worth of expenses if you want to save for the rough times. That's really good. You should be putting away about 3 to 6 months of expenses just in case it all goes sideways and the economy grinds to a halt. And with 10.5 billion, 1.5 billion, 11.4 billion, 8.8 billion, and 1.1 billion, you think the money spent on those stocks, or 12 or 13 billion dollars, you think the money on that stock, not in your cash flow because that's unfair to American Airlines. They had a negative cash flow. But you think saving some of that money from buying back those stocks would help them today. You would think that. But no, they're asking for $50 billion from the American people to bail them out. We bailed them out after the last national crisis of 9/11 because they were literally attacked. America was literally attacked. Makes sense. Here, we're all feeling the crunch together. If we're all feeling the crunch together, we all have to suffer together, and nobody should get special treatment. The only people who should be receiving special treatment are actual human beings. Small businesses, individual Americans, families. Why should we be helping middle management and executives? I heard one airline executive saying, "Oh, these people will lose their jobs if we don't bail them out." Yes, many people have lost their jobs. That's why we have unemployment. That's why we have the stimulus package being voted on. And basically, what I'm hearing is we should double dip because we should help the airlines. And then when they get fired, because nobody's going to be flying in 2 to 3 months, they should get unemployment insurance. No, that's ass backwards. They should not be getting a bailout. Every company, unless of course you're in trucking, medical, uh, agriculture, and utilities, you shouldn't be getting a bailout. You should be riding the wave with us all. Then the people that are still out there working, they're the ones who should be getting bailouts. Because my CVS, my pharmacist, they're still open. They're still doing a great job at making sure that New York City doesn't go hungry. And these airlines shouldn't be bailed out because nobody is supposed to be flying right now. I'm Alan Imperial, and I'm signing out.